My father refused to babysit my kids for even a day, but demanded I drop everything to take care of him, saying, "Parents deserve unlimited respect." When I told him no, he scoffed, "You'll regret this when I cut you out of my will." I laughed and said, "You did cut me out years ago when you stopped acting like a father." I'm Ray, 41, living outside Akron, Ohio. Married, 2 kids, Josh is 10, Natalie's 7. I'm the kind of guy who tries to do the right thing, keeps his head down, pays the bills, takes care of his people. My wife Erica and I juggle work and parenting like everyone else. It's a grind, but we do what we can. My dad, Warren, is 71 now, retired mechanic. Rough kind of guy, always had dirt under his nails and something nasty to say. I don't have many good memories of him. When I was a kid, he was there, but he wasn't present. You know what I mean? He worked hard, I'll give him that. But he acted like working a job meant he didn't have to be a parent. I didn't expect him to play catch with me every day or anything. But maybe show up to my baseball game? Maybe teach me how to drive? Maybe say good job once? After my mom died, things got worse. I was 17. He didn't hug me. Didn't say it would be okay. He just tossed me the keys to her car and said, "Looks like you're driving yourself to school now." I went to college because I wanted better. He didn't help. Didn't fill out any forms. Didn't send money. Not even a phone call to say goodbye when I moved into the dorms. Still, every summer I came home. Fixed his leaky sink. Painted the porch. Because I still wanted him to be proud of me. Or maybe just notice me. When I got married, he didn't give a toast. Sat in the back corner drinking whiskey. When Josh was born, he came to the hospital, stayed 10 minutes, and left. Never held him. Said, "Babies cry too much." That was who he was. When Josh was 3 and Natalie had just been born, Erica and I were drowning. I called him, just asking for 4 hours on a Saturday to watch the kids. I didn't expect much, but I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd surprise me. He laughed. Full-on laughed. "I changed my last diaper in 1989, he said. "Not my problem now." I told him we were exhausted. That Erica hadn't slept more than 3 hours in weeks. He replied, "You wanted kids. You deal with them." After that, I stopped asking. But he never stopped asking me for help. Roof leaking? I was there. Car battery dead? I came on my lunch break. He'd call me out of nowhere to fix something, then barely say thanks. Never offered gas money, never asked about the kids. Just expected me to be there because you take care of family. Fast forward to last October. Erica's mom had surgery in Florida, and Erica flew down to be with her. I was home with both kids, handling everything. I was working full-time remotely, trying to keep things running. Natalie had a cold. Josh had a science project. I was barely sleeping. That's when my dad called. He told me he threw his back out. Said he couldn't get around the house. Needed someone to come stay with him for a few days. I told him I couldn't. Not now. Not this week. His tone changed fast. "So your old man needs help for once in his life, and suddenly you're too busy," he said. "Dad, Erica's gone. The kids are sick. I'm working full-time. I'm already spread thin." He cut me off. "Parents deserve unlimited respect. You wouldn't be here if it weren't for me." I swear, my hands started shaking. Not from anger, just from years of this. Years of him guilt-tripping, manipulating, playing the victim. "You've said that before," I told him. "But respect goes both ways." He snapped, "You'll regret this when I cut you out of my will." And I lost it. I laughed. I actually laughed. Because it was so ridiculous. I said, "You cut me out years ago when you stopped acting like a father." Then I hung up. I felt sick after. But also weirdly clear. Like someone took fog off a mirror and I finally saw everything for what it was. 2 days later, my cousin Amy texted me. "Did you really tell your dad to screw off? He's telling everyone you abandoned him." Of course. Of course he was telling everyone he was the victim. That's when I decided I wasn't going to be the punching bag anymore. I wasn't going to keep giving while he just took and took. I decided to show him what it really felt like to be left behind. I didn't respond to Amy's text, not at first. I was tired, angry, hurt. I didn't want to explain myself or justify what I said. But that silence didn't last long, because within a week, my phone started blowing up with calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. My Uncle Dave left me a voicemail. "Ray, I don't know what's going on between you and your dad, but family takes care of family. Always." Then came a Facebook message from my Aunt Janet. "Warren's been telling people he's all alone and can't get around. I thought you were better than this." It was like he'd organized a smear campaign. I wasn't just the bad son, I was the ungrateful son. The one who had changed since getting married. Whipped, someone even said. Like the fact that I love my wife and kids meant I'd betrayed my father. I tried to ignore it. Focused on my job. On helping Josh finish his science fair project. On getting Natalie to sleep without coughing through the night. But the guilt crept in. Not because I thought I was wrong, but because I'd let him paint me into this monster. I was letting everyone think I abandoned a helpless old man. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I drove to his house. It was a Sunday afternoon, chilly and gray. The leaves had started turning, and the wind had that bite that means winter's around the corner. I pulled up to his place, same two-story house he's lived in since I was born. The gutters were sagging, the grass overgrown. It looked worse than I remembered. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. So I used the spare key he kept under the fake rock and let myself in. The place reeked. Trash hadn't been taken out. Empty cans everywhere. Dishes stacked in the sink, crusted over. The living room looked like a war zone. He was sitting in his recliner, staring at the TV, which wasn't even on. He didn't look surprised to see me. "Come to apologize?" he asked. "No," I said. "I came to see for myself." He turned away. "You've made your choice." I looked around. "You really let yourself go. If you needed help that bad, why didn't you call someone else? You got plenty of family nearby. I don't want help from outsiders." I stared at him. "You mean people who don't kiss your ass?" He narrowed his eyes. "Watch your mouth." "No," I said. "I'm done watching my mouth." You sit in this dump, telling everyone you're helpless, when what you really are is bitter. And lazy. You made a mess of your life, and now you want me to come clean it up. "You owe me," he muttered. "I gave you everything." I couldn't help myself. I laughed again. "You gave me nothing, Dad. You fed me. That's not a gift, that's your job. You didn't raise me. You barked orders and called it parenting." He grabbed the arm of his chair like he wanted to throw something, but he was too stiff to even stand up. "I'm your father," he said through clenched teeth. "You don't talk to me like that." "And you're my father," I replied, "but you never acted like it. So now you get to live with what you built." I turned to leave. But he said something that made me stop cold. "Don't walk out that door, Ray. If you do, I'll make sure you never get a penny from me. You hear me?" Not a cent. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Then I said, "You think I care about your money? I've been on my own since I was 17. Your will doesn't scare me. You already left me behind a long time ago." And I walked out. But the story doesn't end there. Because a month later, he ended up in the hospital. And guess who they called? He was in the hospital for 3 days before I even knew. I got the call on a Thursday morning. I was on my way to work after dropping the kids at school. A nurse from Summit County Medical Center said, "Hi, is this Raymond Walker? We have a Warren Walker admitted here. You're listed as next of kin." I didn't say anything right away. "Your father was found on the floor in his home. Dehydrated. Low blood sugar. Looks like he'd been down a while before someone found him." I asked who found him. A Meals on Wheels volunteer. Said he hadn't answered the door in 2 days. I thanked her for the call and hung up. I didn't rush to the hospital. I didn't cancel my meetings. I went to work, sat at my desk, stared at my computer, and felt absolutely nothing. No panic, no heartbreak, just a weird kind of quiet. Around lunchtime, I drove to the hospital. Not out of love, not out of duty, mostly just to see if what I felt or didn't feel was real. He was in room 404, hooked to a couple machines, four in his arm. He looked smaller somehow, less like a man and more like the echo of one. When he saw me, his jaw tightened. "Here to watch me die," he croaked. I ignored it. "How long were you on the floor?" "Long enough." There was silence. Then he said, "I knew you wouldn't come." "I came," I said. He scoffed. "Took you long enough." That's when the doctor came in. Middle-aged guy, calm voice. He asked me to step outside for a moment. "We've stabilized him for now," he said, "but he's not in good shape. He needs assisted living or in-home care. He can't be on his own anymore." I nodded slowly. "And who pays for that? Does he have long-term care insurance? Medicaid? Family support?" I almost laughed. "No," I said. "He's got pride, some land, and a whole lot of burned bridges." The doctor gave me a look I've seen before. The "I'm sorry, but this is your problem now" look. "I'll see what I can do," I said, lying through my teeth. I went back in. He stared at me, waiting. "You're not going home," I told him. "They say you need care." He didn't react. Just said, "So what are you gonna do? Move me in with your perfect little family?" "No," I said. He looked like he didn't expect that. "You're going into a home. Somewhere that can deal with people like you. You're dumping me in a nursing home?" I nodded. "You dumped yourself." He tried to argue. Told me I was heartless. Said I'd regret it. Said I was tearing the family apart. So I leaned in close and said, "You're not the family I'm worried about." "My kids? My wife? That's my family. You made your choices. Now you live with them." I walked out. This time for real. But the real twist came 2 weeks later. I got a call from a lawyer. Said my father had updated his will a year earlier. Removed me entirely. Left everything, including the house, to my cousin Greg. Greg, who lives 2 states away and hadn't seen my father in 10 years. At first, I didn't care. I didn't want his money. Didn't need his house. But then I found out why he did it. Greg had visited once. One single visit. For an afternoon, just passing through. Brought my dad a bottle of bourbon and sat with him for 2 hours. That's all it took. My dad saw Greg, who barely knew him, and said, "That's what a respectful young man looks like." So he gave everything to him. It took me a couple days to cool off after that call with the lawyer. I didn't tell Erica right away. I needed time to think. Not because I cared about the money, but because I realized what this whole thing really was. It wasn't about inheritance. It was about power. Control. He'd used money, guilt, and fear my whole life to keep me close, to keep me obedient. And now that he had no strength left, he was still trying to pull the strings. But here's the truth. The will didn't bother me. What bothered me was the lie behind it. The story he was going to leave behind, how his only son had abandoned him, and how a distant cousin showed more love than his own flesh and blood. That's what I couldn't let stand. So I started digging. Greg had no idea what he'd walked into. He was flattered by the inheritance. Thought it was some kind of family honor. He didn't know my dad had used him to stab me in the back. I called Greg and asked to meet. We sat down over coffee at a diner in Cuyahoga Falls. I kept things simple. "Did he tell you I wasn't in the will?" Greg blinked. "I mean, yeah, he mentioned some stuff. Said you two didn't talk anymore." I nodded. "Did he tell you why?" He hesitated. "He said you were disrespectful. That you didn't appreciate him." I laughed, cold. "Did he tell you I spent 20 years fixing his house, paying his bills, dropping everything for him? Did he tell you I asked him for help one time and he laughed in my face?" Greg looked uncomfortable. I leaned in. "You want the house? Take it. But you better be ready to own every lie that comes with it. Because I'm done carrying his shame." He didn't respond. Just stared into his coffee. 2 weeks later, I wrote something. Not for a lawyer. Not for revenge. Just the truth. I wrote a letter, 1 page. I made copies and mailed them to every single person in our extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, friends of the family. I laid it all out. How he treated me growing up. How he never once helped with my kids. How he threatened me over a will. How he chose someone else just to get the last word. I ended it with one line. He was my father by blood. But family is more than that. He taught me what not to be. And for that, I'm finally grateful. It blew up. Some people reached out to say they'd had similar experiences. One of my uncles apologized for defending him. My Aunt Janet wrote me an email that said, I had no idea. I'm sorry for judging you. But the fallout didn't stop there. Turns out, Greg didn't want the house after all. Not after reading my letter. He contacted the lawyer and said he wouldn't accept the inheritance. Didn't want the tax burden. Didn't want the drama. Didn't want to be part of someone else's legacy of bitterness. My father, now living in a small Medicaid-funded nursing facility, got word. And he called me. One last time. He sounded tired. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just tired. You win, he said. I stayed quiet. You got everyone to hate me. I took a breath. No. You did that. I just told the truth. He didn't respond for a long time. Then he said something I never expected. I was scared, Ray, of being old, alone, useless. I closed my eyes. Then you should have held on to the people who tried to love you. He hung up first. That was the last time I spoke to him. He died 6 months later. I didn't go to the funeral. I stayed home. Sat on the floor with my kids, played board games, and watched movies with my wife. Because that's the life I built. A life that's nothing like his. And that's how I won. Not with money. Not with revenge. But by breaking the cycle. By choosing to be the father I never had. By finally walking away and never looking back.